Good morning, students. Today we'll be doing a chapter on transitive and intransitive verb. Now, this is going to be a pretty lengthy PPT. So, just in case if the video becomes too long, then I'm going to stop in between and make two videos out of it so that you can understand it better. Alright, let's begin with the thought. Every day may not be good, but there is something good in every day. In other words, one should always be positive and see the positive aspect of everything. Right, so we begin with the verb today. What exactly is a verb? A verb is a word which tells us something about a person or a thing, isn't it? Like we can take an example over here. Suppose the example says, I walk to school. Over here, the verb is walk. And the other sentence is, I to school. Now, in the first sentence, we realize that the first sentence makes sense. But if the verb is missing from the sentence, I to school, there's no verb in this sentence, then we can say that the sentence doesn't make any sense. Right? Now, a verb may tell us what a person or a thing does, what is done to a person, and what a person or a thing is. Right? That means verb also says or expresses a state of being, the condition. I repeat once again, a verb tells us about three things basically. First is what a person or a thing does. Like suppose the sentence says he plays. So what does he do? He plays. Plays is the verb. What is done to a person? He is scolded. What is the verb? Scolded. So, scolded becomes like what is done to that person, isn't it? The action which is done on him. And the third thing is what a person or a thing is, the condition or the verb of being, the state of being. Like suppose the example says, Jamie was curious. Was. This becomes the verb over here. Because this expresses the state of condition, the condition in which Jamie is. So was becomes the verb of being, right? Now, what is the state of being? That means there are 8 state of being words. You should remember this. Is, am, are, was, were, be, being, been. These are actually the 8 state of being verbs. State of being means the condition in which the verb is. The condition in which the noun is. The verb is telling you about that. Okay? Now, it is also called as the linking verb. Here, this one. Now, the verb of being, that is, am, are, was, were, be, being, been, all these are called as linking words. Why linking words? Because they link the subject to the predicate. Right? For example, I am a student. I am a student. So over here, am is a linking verb. I am a student. Am becomes the linking word. Linking I, that is noun, subject, with the rest of the sentence, which is predicate. A student over here becomes the predicate. And am becomes the linking verb or the state or the verb of being. Similarly, you are my best friend. Over here, are becomes the linking verb. Ram is not at home. What is the linking verb over here? Let's say if I just ask you what is the subject and the predicate, Ram is the subject. Is not at home becomes the predicate, the entire part. And what is the verb over here? The verb is, which is linking both Ram to the rest of the sentence that is not at home. Okay. Then some more example. Smith is strange. That is shows a state of existence. This is the state of being. Will be, has been, was. All these verbs will show you the state of existence. Okay. Now the way we have used these verbs, have, has, have, had, there are basically 3 conditions in which we use when we are showing something which is to possess or something to eat and drink or something to do or to take. Like in case of possession, they have a big house. When the verb have is used, it is used to denote possession. They have a big house. Possession over here means they own a big house. I had a pet dog. Had over here means past tense. I had a pet dog. Had again refers to the verb of possession. The person owned a pet dog. He has a personal computer. He again in the third person, he has a personal computer, owns a personal computer. Then in terms of eat and drink, this is again very simple. I have my breakfast at 8 a.m. Over here, have is the verb, but over here it signifies eating and drinking, or having lunch or having dinner. This means to consume something. Then we had a lot of fun. This is to do an action. He is having his bath. Some action is going to do something, right? So this is how the verb is being used. Now we come to action verbs. Action verb denotes action, like play, cook, run, swim, laugh. All these are action. Some action is being taken. So the action, we move on to this example then. Okay. Now over here, verbs are doing or action verbs. Like most people sleep at night. Some action is being going on. Walk, don't run, says the teacher. Now in this sentence, students, there are three verbs. If you notice the word in red, walk, this is again an action verb. Don't run, run again is an action verb. Says the teacher, teacher is saying something, some action is being done. So walk, run, says, all these three becomes the action or the doing word. Some kind of activity is being happening. Will you remember school when you grow old? Over here, remember. This is the action verb. Will you remember? Some mental calculation will be done. So remember becomes the action verb. Grow old. Grow again is an action verb. Right? Now we come to object of a verb. Object of a verb, students. If we take example of this, it will be clear. He paints posters. Now what is the subject over here? Subject is he. Paints is very clear. That is the action verb. Posters becomes the object. Object, that means the receiver of the action. Right? Who is the person who performs the action? The subject. Verb is the action which is performed, and who is the receiver of the subject? Receiver of the verb, it is the object. So posters becomes the object, right? Object of the verb, of course. Now there is something which you need to understand. Well, most of the time nouns are subjects, isn't it? Noun is the subject because noun will be doing, noun is the doer of the action. But sometimes noun performs as the objects also. Like it is here in this case. The girls hurled stones. Now over here there are two nouns. The girls is also noun and stones are also noun. But we see that girls over here is the subject. Hurled over here will be the verb. And stones will be the object. Why object? Because the stones is the object. This is the receiver of the action. What was the action? Hurled was the action. And who received these action? The stones. Okay, the stones becomes the receiver of the action and comes after the verb. So stones becomes the object. And because it is a noun, sometimes it happens that sometimes, most of the time nouns are the subject, but sometimes nouns also perform the role of object. The professor swigged coffee. Professor is noun and coffee is also noun. Swigged will be the verb, but coffee, what does the professor? Professor is the doer of the action. So professor becomes the subject, right? Swigged becomes the verb. And what is the object over here? Who is the receiver of that verb? Coffee. So coffee becomes the object. And coffee is also a noun. Got it? Now we come to transitive and intransitive verbs. This is something what we have to understand. Transitive verbs are action verbs, right? Intransitive verbs are also action verbs. Then what is the difference between the two? Transitive verbs are action verb which has the object to receive. And intransitive verbs are also action verbs, but they do not have an object to receive. Now, giving you the definition will not make it clear. If we take an example, then it will be much clearer. I bake some cookies. What is the verb over here? Bake. And what is the object over here? Cookies, isn't it? Like when we say, if we ask a question, I baked what? What happened? I baked, what was the thing that I baked? Then the answer is cookies. So if there is an object to receive, then it becomes a transitive verb. So the verb bake will be a transitive verb. But suppose the example of a sentence is I laugh, or I cry, or the book falls, right? In that case, what is the verb over here? I laugh. Laugh becomes the verb. But I laugh what? There is no object after that, isn't it? So a verb which is not followed by an object, or the verb which does not, or the sentence which does not have a object over here, then in that case the verb becomes a intransitive verb. Is it clear? Transitive verbs are action verbs which has the object to receive. Like I ride the bicycle. Ride is a verb. Who is the receiver? Bicycle. So ride in this case will become a transitive verb. I cry. What is the verb? Cry. But there is no object in it. So it becomes an intransitive verb. Clear? We move on to the next one. Well, if there is a confusion whether the word is a transitive or not, then we can ask questions and then it will be easy for us to understand. Like in the previous one, Sarah baked a cake. If you ask a question, Sarah baked what? Then the answer is cake. So that means the verb baked will be a transitive verb. But in this sentence, Naomi plays what? Again the same question is asked, but there is no answer. Naomi plays nothing. It is not mentioned. In this case, the verb will remain as intransitive verb. Okay. So the verb which is followed by an object, which has an object, will be called as a transitive verb, and the action verb which does not have an object will be called as an intransitive verb. Now over here also, you buy something, like the sentence says I bought a car. Bought becomes the transitive verb and a car becomes a direct object. This is what we understood, the same example. Now verbs that are transitive and intransitive, both students, sometimes it happens that the same word could be used as a transitive verb and the same could be used as intransitive verb. For example, I stopped the car. The verb over here is stopped and the object followed is the car. So this verb becomes a transitive verb. But the same verb stopped can be used in another way also. The car stopped. Stopped over here means intransitive verb because there is nothing after the word stopped. There is no object after it. So the same word, see, stopped, in both the sentence it is used, but in one sentence it is used as transitive, in other sentence it is used as intransitive. So sometimes it happens that the verbs can be used, the same word could be used in a transitive sentence and the same word can be used in an intransitive manner also. Okay, the examples of transitive verbs, you have a list of examples over here. Could you bring an umbrella? See, bring is a transitive verb because it is followed by an action verb. They bought a yacht. Bought again becomes a transitive verb because it is followed by a direct object. But in case of intransitive verb, like this one, she hesitated for a moment. Hesitated is the verb, intransitive because there is no object after that. And you have a number of it following also. I think we should stop over here and I'll make a small video. Otherwise it will become very... Okay, we stop over here, student. Then this will be followed by another video. Okay.